Abby, and we're going to look at the Sagittarius full moon that happened earlier today. What I want to do is show you from the different perspectives of charts. So I'm going to start with horoscopes.astro-seek.com, brilliant site to look up, transits and solar returns and all sorts of things. And I also do look at charts. So if you want me to look with you, then you can book an hour with me, as long as the trauma work that I do with complex PTSD and stuff. So I do a bit of a mixed bag of things, but overall it's looking at healing. Even with the astrology that I look at, that's my, where I'm coming in at. It's to heal and to basically empower ourselves. And that's what we need to do, because we only have so many days on planet Earth from the moment we're born until the time that we leave. And within that time, we want to basically be moving towards what we want and what makes us happy, not sort of a law of attraction, happy stuff, skipping through the fields, but dealing with real life, but doing it in a way that serves us, it's our purpose. So this chart we'll look at first, and then I will jump over to my own chart so that you'll be able to see showing you how it's affecting my chart. Then hopefully you'll be able to sort of understand how it affects your own chart if you look at your natal chart. And then we'll jump over to solar fire. I'm going to come off camera so that I'm able to focus on the chart work now. Okay, catch you in a bit later or after this video maybe. So I'm going to stop video. And what we have is that the chart of today this is the full moon chart. And you can see that the moon is always in opposition to the sun. When it's a new moon, the sun is basically conjunct the moon. So that's worth knowing. With the full moon, the meaning when this happens, it's about, what's outside us. It's about the intimate relationships. It's also about, with our home life and intimacy as well. And it's the moon phase. It's where, it's a culmination. And we've got something, this is opposing. So we've got an opposing thing going on there. This is our emotional world and our inner world. And then the sun is who we, show ourselves to be in the world. So this can create inner tension and external tension as well. We can feel pressurized by what goes on outside of us. And that's not always a bad thing, because the pressure can basically, helps us to make choices. So we've also need to use our intuition with this, where we're going. And it's very interesting with the Sagittarius full moon, a lot of that is about intuition. If we look at what Sagittarius means in a moment, that will give you an idea of what, we're looking at. But if we can see, we've got the square here to Neptune, and this moon square Neptune is really difficult. It can bring in a lot of confusion for us. And you might have had a bit of a confusing day. I know that I have, where we put things and remembering things, and generally just a little bit feeling a bit off on confusion. And then that Neptune is also square the sun, and this can be to do with, addiction as well, getting lost in thinking that we want a substance in order to, feel different. And we want to watch that, because for many people that can be a bit of a problem. For some people, at least. I know myself, I've not had any alcohol coming up 10 years on the 2nd of July 2022, or July 2nd 2022, and we're all at different phases in our healing and the way we deal with the world. So it's not about giving yourself a hard time, but being aware that this can cause problems with addiction at this time. This square Neptune to the moon and square to the sun. We've also got this Pluto is sextile to Neptune, which is quite beautiful. It's moving, this will be in place for quite some time, actually, looking at that. That's a semi-sextile, not, hang on, 60. It's actually 60. So let's look here, give you an idea. So what's that Neptune doing? Neptune is sextile. It's not a semi-sextile, it's 60 degrees. So that will hold in place for quite some time. It's quite a spiritualized element, and it's quite a beautiful thing to see happening for humanity. When we also look, this is the beautiful thing, if you go to horoscopes.astro/seek.com, not /hyphen. I always do that with the hyphen and /. So but we've got here that this Saturn is also square to Mercury, or the node actually. So we've got some squares going on here. So if we look at Saturn, you can scroll down and you can see, you know, what Saturn's doing. So if you look at Mercury, Mercury is square Saturn. Mercury is trine to Pluto. Venus is square to Saturn. So Venus is our inner needs. Mercury is our communication. So there is, this is a, you know, a bit tricky for us. And then we've also got the moon is trining Mars. The moon is sextile to Saturn, which is really beautiful. Very helpful to us. And the moon is square to Neptune. The sun is opposing the moon. The sun is trine to Saturn, and the sun is square to Neptune. So we know what Venus is doing there. The Neptune sextile Pluto, I said, the node is in conjunct to the moon. So there's something that we're not seeing, but that node actually is, if we look at the south node here, you won't see it, but that south node is also doing an in conjunct to the sun, I believe. I'll double check, but that is a difficult aspect. If we go, it will be 150 degrees. So 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, and that's 20, and that's about, you know, 7. So if we do this again, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 120, 130, 140. So this is an in conjunct. So there's something we're not seeing and something to do with the past and we're wanting to move forward. We've also got the Jupiter is in Aries, and then we've got Mars is conjunct Chiron, and this is quite difficult for us as well because Mars is our direction and we've got the Chiron is the wound. So if I find, let's see if I find this aspect, we got Mars conjunct Chiron. So Mars is our energy and our drive, and Chiron is what is referred to as the wounded healer, and it's where we heal by acknowledging our concealed trauma. And often our concealed trauma will show up by interactions with others, and something happens, and then, or an event happens through others, and then we basically get to integrate and come to terms with it. So there is, it can be an enhanced ability for actions to arise based on hidden issues. So I've had some memories come up today that definitely were a bit trying for me. And then I had to sort of, I was trying to make a choice. Do I do something about it or do I leave it alone? So we, you know, we can see how that's playing out because Mars is, you know, in Aries as well. It's the inner work that we're doing. So this, it's where we've had early woundings regarding our own projects and, you know, and how also how we confront others, because Aries is to do with, you know, moving forward and being a pioneer, and then how other, you know, confrontation from others and how we confront others. And although painful, you know, as although this can be, we can feel some wounding and pain, and we can feel stuck because when we go back to memories, we forget that we've actually moved ahead. So sometimes when we do a recall and we have a flashback and we, you know, get reminded of something, we can think that we've not moved ahead. We sort of visit somewhere in the past and we can think, oh, you know, I haven't, where does, you know, it could be to do with confidence. It could be to do with a monetary thing. It could be to do with a relationship. It could be, but these, when we get flooded with these memories, we can almost forget momentarily that we are not in that place anymore. We've moved on. Pete Walker's done a lot of work around this on flashbacks and the fight, flight, freeze form. Fight, flight is the limbic system response, and fawning and freezing are limbic system responses to trauma. So that stuff is really worth working on. The other thing that's quite beautiful, which you can't see on this chart, I'll see if I can show you on the solar fire, that the moon is in a, it's got quintiles, which is a biquintile actually, which is 144 degrees hitting these planets down here. So this is really beautiful because it's a healing energy, it's a spiritual energy, and it's healing. There's not a lot known or spoken about quintiles. but you know, it's worth looking into those, and they could be classed as minor aspects depending on how you look at them in conjuncts, or also, you know, there are other aspects going on this chart. This is my point. So we can see here, let me get my pointer. And I have been a bit confused today, but not in a, just in a bit of a strange way. But that Neptune moon does that. It's a bit of a strange one for humanity. We've got I've got my pointer here. So the sun is 23-25 of Gemini. The moon is 23-25 of Sag. That was earlier today, Sagittarius. Mercury is also just entered Gemini. You can see here, literally, this time. And then Venus is in Taurus for another week or so. Probably, I think it's until the 23rd. We've got Mars and we've got Jupiter in the sign of Aries there. Saturn is just gone retrograde in the last week in Aquarius at 25 degrees, and it will move back. We'll look on the chart, we'll look on solar fire, how far that goes back. Then we've got Uranus is in Taurus at 16 degrees, Neptune is in Pisces at 25, and we've also got Pluto is also retrograde at the moment. We've got to be aware that there are going to be other planets going retrograde in the coming weeks ahead. You know, Jupiter will go retrograde, and also I think Venus is going retrograde this year, but again, I'll have to look. So the north node is in Taurus and 20 degrees, and the true node actually is at 22 Taurus, and the mean node, we want to follow the true node. And then also we got Chiron also at 15 degrees, which you can see is on top of Mars there. So let's go over to my chart, and so you can look at yours to see where that is, make sure I'm sharing the right thing. So this is my chart of now, the now time. But if I look back, the sun is in my 7th house, which is to do with my relationships and partnerships and bouncing things of other people. Natally, my sun is in the 7th house because not because the sun could be anywhere, but I'm a Gemini at 0.17, you see there, degrees. And then the sun is will be moving into my 8th house. But what we have, you need to find your time of birth. If you don't have that, otherwise you're not going to know your rising sign. I'm Scorpio rising, 27 degrees. And the moon happened in my 1st house. So it's looking at myself here. It's looking at I thought it was actually, hang on a minute. The moon I kept thinking it was my 2nd house, and all day I've been thinking it was in my 2nd, but no, it's in my 1st. So that is to do with myself. This is to do with, you know, my inner needs as well, in the you know, looking at what I want for me. This is quite good for me. We've got the meaning of the Sagittarius, and clearly what I want to say here as well is that what's going on here will be aspecting other planets for me. So you can go really deep into astrology. That Saturn has gone retrograde in my 3rd house, my house of communication. So, and you know, writing and also how I'm interacting with people locally as well. And that is squaring to my DC and my AC, because you can see there it's at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Let's say it's at 25, and my DC is at 27. So you can see I've got a T-square going on there to that up there. So it's almost touching in with my South node. Great. And it's also almost in with my sun there as well, but it's in with my North node, because you can see my North node is at 25 degrees of Taurus. So I can work that, because that restriction, it's like I'm learning, there's something that I'm solving, and it's quite brilliant when we understand astrology, because it can speed up our evolution. So if I go over now to Solar Fire, the emanated page, and find my pointer. So it'd be interesting, you can tell me where it is for you if you want to leave a message below and let me know. But it is beautiful because Jupiter rules the sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter is the ruler. So new share, pointer. Let's see. Get the spotlight. So you can see here, this was 14th of June, UK time up here. And if you were, wherever you were, for instance, here in the UK, it happened at 12:51, which is actually this time here is universal time. So the real time that it would have happened in the UK would have been 12:51 p.m. In New York, it was at 7:51 a.m. And in LA, it was at 4:51 a.m. And in Sydney, it was at 9:51 p.m. 9:51 p.m. And in Delhi, it was at 5:21 p.m. So all the different times. So we could feel with the moon square to Neptune, you know, this is about our, it's very confusing and a lot of sensitivity, and there can be a feeling of a loss of faith. So if you feel that, you know, you don't want to be, you know, messing around with alcohol and stuff like that, because it just makes the illusion bigger and it's really hard work then. And this can also be, you know, with our health, because Neptune is the unseen and it's illusions, delusions. And it's also looking at the Neptune, where it is in your chart as well. You know, where it's actually falling. For me, it's on my IC at the moment. So it's to do with my home life as well. And we basically this will lead up to the new moon that will happen on the 28th. So the next 2 weeks, we are affected by this Sagittarius moon in a full moon, and then the new moon affects the whole month ahead. When we look at Sagittarius, we're looking at where we're adaptable. It's our beliefs. It's where we can be dogmatic. It's philosophy. It's our intuition. And it's where we're about honesty. It's long journeys. It's a pilgrimage. It's multicultural. It's to do with ideals and ideas and immigration, and it's homelessness. And, you know, there's a lot of that going on in the world at this time, isn't there, with what that we know is taking place in the world when wars take place, and also people, you know, the costs of homes and stuff like that. It can be very tricky for people right now, the financial stuff. The Sagittarius also is the explorer. It's inspiration. It's where we can feel restless. It's where we can, it's about freedom. It's wanting our freedom. It can be half-truths. It can be the charmer, the guru, the teacher. It's natural law. It's also where we can feel alienated. It's our wisdom. It's where we give meaning, expansion, trust, also faith and truth, really important things. So it's a mixture of things. It's extremely, you know, freeing in a way. It's like it does, you know, with Jupiter, it's a sense of freedom. When we look at Jupiter, in fact, and we think about what Jupiter is in our lives, or, you know, in the planets. And the beautiful thing about astrology, and Jung said this, Carl Gustav Jung said, you know, the beautiful thing about the planets is that they mean the same things all over the world. Like if people were to discuss in any different language, were to discuss the moon, the meaning of the sun, and the astrology, it would all mean the same thing. It's like reading music, you know, that you give people a piece of music that can play music, and it's going to translate into the same thing, whoever you give that piece of music to, who can read music and understand music. And that's what astrology is. The more we understand the archetypes, and we understand what Pluto means, what the moon means, what the south node means, the north node, the sun, the Uranus, Venus, and then we understand the houses, and then we move on to understanding aspects. It's not that complex, but it does take work to sort of integrate the knowledge of what these different things mean. So Jupiter is very beautiful. And this full moon is in Sagittarius, and Jupiter is attached to the sign of Sagittarius. And it's where we can have, it's our belief systems. It's where we can have conceit. It's where we have creative visualization. It is education. It's expansiveness, and it can be very extravagant. It's our fortune. It's where Jupiter is in our chart. You know, if we look at it, you know, there can be a lot of fortune there. For me, it's just on the cusp of my 8th house in the sign of Cancer. For me, it's exalted in Cancer as well, which is quite beautiful. Jupiter is where we can gamble. It's our generosity. It's also our grace. It's also higher learning. It's our higher mind, and it's hope. And it's, you know, it's where we can see new horizons, and it's where we can be optimistic, and it can be positive. It's to do with religion. It's our self-improvement. It's where we study and travel. And it's also wealth, and it's wisdom. And it's also when we look at, you know, how we do things, and we're creative as well, we want to, you know, we can have two sides to our lives where we're either it's a healthy expression or it's a unhealthy expression. So where we, you know, with this Jupiter Sagittarius, we can be extreme in not a healthy way, or we can be extreme in a very positive, optimistic way, and we can have a healthy outlook. Or, you know, otherwise we can be sort of overconfident and lazy and just think everything's going to come to us and we're going to be gifted. But there's a lot of wisdom with this Jupiter, because it would be the nomad Sagittarius, the nomad, the traveler, who would have collected information and been a loner as well. So quite beautiful. I keep saying that, but it really is. It's been quite a lovely day for me. So I don't know about you guys out there, but you can tell me. Everybody's going to be different because it's going to hit your chart differently. So you need to look at that. Look at your own aspects, and you can definitely do that on horoscopes.astro-seek.com. So here I wanted to see how long Jupiter is in the sign of, where is Jupiter here? I think it's going to go retrograde. So let's go by hours. We're going to look at a few things that are going to be going on. So we're going to go days ahead. We're looking at Jupiter, and we're going to see when that's going to go retrograde. And I'm going days ahead. I think some people like this moving. Well, look, we got, you see, but what's going to happen there? Chiron's going to go retrograde there. So Chiron, 19th of July, is going to go retrograde. Stations on the 19th of July. So we're going to go over and be sorting out our wounding. Then we've got days ahead. Let's see when Jupiter is next on the 30th of July. It's RX there, Jupiter. Venus, we do know we're going into August there, so I'm going to go back, but we've also know that we've got Saturn retrograde. And if we go back now, this is doing by days, by the way, if you wonder what I'm doing here. And we're the 14th of June. We're looking at there. It's going to be beautiful. I think Venus in Gemini is quite lovely. So we're going to go back, and it's the last day, 22nd, 23rd of June. The Venus will move out of the sign of Taurus. And Venus in Taurus is romance and reliability go hand in hand. And we're slow and steady, and it's also where we, you know, feel solid and secure, and we can also enjoy our sexuality, and we're reliable with finances. If we have that as a natal placement, as an example, when it moves into, let's see here, Gemini. So Venus in Gemini is where we're very curious. It's where we're very flirtatious, and we enjoy intellectual exchanges and our ideas, and it's communicating within a relationship, you know, that it will be important to us as that Venus moves through the sign of Gemini. And it's also where we can be restless and we can get bored, but we may be into money-making schemes. We need a bit of that with what's going on with the markets at the moment. Everything's crashing around us. So play it, you know, definitely look at your finances as well with this. What we need to do with this Uranus in the sign of Taurus, we're looking at our inner needs and our finances for the coming years, because there is a complete restructure going on. Where it's going to lead, we don't know, because governments are sort of trying to take over and decide what they're doing, because with inflation, the inflationary rates, and when we could look back to 2008, what took place when Pluto moved into Capricorn, we had a financial crash. And somehow we survived, didn't we? So what we've got to look at, like human beings, we survive regardless of the ups and downs of life. So what we need to do is basically look at our foods. What I've started doing, because I know prices are going up, I've begun to, and if you can afford to do this, I would suggest things that are your staples, like things like honey. I've bought, I've bought in a pack of 12 500 grams like of raw honey that I like, for instance, because I noticed that the price was going up. So in the shop. So what I decided to do, I just thought, you know what, just get those things and some cans in. Like, I bought some butter beans. I'm not into beans and stuff like that. Sorry, I'm talking about food now, but really this is worth thinking about. Grains, grains are going to go up in price as well. Personally, I like quinoa. It's a good protein. I don't really like grains very much, but if we're going to have to eat, then we're going to have to need nutritious stuff. And there are easier ways of eating that are cheap. We don't have to be spending loads of money on food, and we can buy, when we buy those things, you can get, if you, instead of buying meat, I'm not telling you not to eat meat, but I'm just saying, if you are stuck and you need to cut back on your resources, you can buy things like mushrooms to eat, of course, mushrooms, and you can buy things like sprouting seeds. So think about your foods and think about your needs. Not everybody has land to plant food. I mean, you might have friends who are growing food, and it depends where you are. I'm currently in London, so it's, I don't know many people near me who are growing food. It's a very built up area. There might be allotments where you can go and buy fruit and veg, or there's maybe a local veg company that delivers. So really get organized with your food so that you're set up for the winter. Also, I know I'm giving you tips here, but it's showing up in the astrology with the resources, because this is what this Uranus is. And this is going to move in. This node is going to move in and conjunct Uranus, but I think Mars is going to be there as well. So this gets really interesting, what's going on. And I know it's, there's some real hardships out there for people. There are some terrible things taking place through psychopathy. And when we think that wars even go on in this day and age, it is, and that people are losing their lives or being, sexually violated by soldiers, or, it's just horrific. There is trauma in this world. And we can be so disassociated from it and not understand. We think, I don't want to, people think throwing money at it, like, donations is the thing. People need psychological help in these situations. They definitely do. So, first and foremost, look, we do have to make sure that we're fit and healthy so that we're able to then lend a hand to other people. So do organize yourself, and things, like I haven't got in my house, I've got candles. If there was a power cut yesterday, thankfully I wasn't around for the few hours that it took place in my home. There was a power cut around my local area. So, if that had happened at night, or it happened, and it was midwinter, have we got enough blankets? Have we got enough hot water bottles? If we got some way we can heat hot water, if they're, if depending on what resources we're using. So it all sounds a bit scary, but we just got to think ahead. It's not, if we're planned and we've been thinking ahead, then, if we've got some candles in the house and we've got torches and batteries, and also the other thing which I am looking at is buying for my phone is like a solar power charger for the phone, so that at least I'll have one electrical device that works if I don't have other devices. So I'm definitely investigating that, because they do exist, and I don't know what the best one is on the market, but these things are really worth thinking about, and also very useful, to have one of those packs, like a solar panel iPhone, or not an iPhone, a mobile phone charged up already, so that we can or not charged up already. We'd have to charge the phone, I guess. I don't know exactly how they work. They probably wouldn't store power, I'm not sure. But very interesting that we've got new technologies coming out that make it easier for us as well to do certain things that we could never have done before. So it's not all doom and gloom. We're going through some big shifts and changes. We've got one more Mercury retrograde at the end of the year. I do want to take this chart forward to see when the North Node will touch in with Uranus here. So I haven't said too much about the moon, but you can get the idea, and I think we all feel it. But it felt good. I think it's brought a lot of clarity to a lot of people, because we get to see the bigger picture with that Jupiter in Sagittarius, and the idea it's the bigger picture is sort of being able to, you know, we can sort of feel that. So I'm taking this forward. That node does move quite slowly, so I'm going to go by weeks, because it takes a year and a half through each sign. So here you can see that it's crossed node 20. So let's go again. And here it is. So at that point, we've got, if I go back a day, so it'll be really interesting to look. They're all going to be at 18 degrees, and it's going to be square to Saturn up there. So this is the last square that we're going to have to Uranus Saturn square, but not the last square ever. It's going to be the last square that it's been going on all year, like last year in part, and we can see that that's retrograde. So if we go days forward, watch Saturn, and Saturn will go back to Uranus is at 18. So if you think Uranus takes 84 years around the chart, but Saturn takes about 28 and a half, 29. So 18 degrees, and then you see that square here, and the node is moving off at that point. But we'll look at that at another time. And I think it goes back to 18. There you go, see, square. This is in October. And so what is going on is the restriction, breaking free of limitation, restriction, you know, technologies, think about it, electricity, Aquarius, Uranus is the ruler of Uranus, and Saturn both rule Aquarius. Very fascinating times. So it'd be really interesting to see what plays out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this moon, and leave any messages below. Anything else you've noticed or anything you want to ask me, then do so. Okay, catch you later. Thanks for watching.